Political science professor Patrick Smith, our guest. The results are in, counted. Are there any recounts that you know of?
I suspect there will be, but because there was some, I guess the candidates who lost, and within a certain percentage, have the capacity to ask for it, and they don't have to do it in the immediate. They can do it in the next day or so. So I would, under normal circumstances, you would anticipate there would be one or two or three, but it's not going to affect the outcome at all.
If the result had been a minority government one more time, lots of talk of coalition. How does that work? The Prime Minister has to agree to let it happen, and then the Governor General wades in. What happens when they want to form a coalition? Who does what?
Well,
I know it won't happen this time.
No. I mean, the way a coalition would occur would be that the party that was being asked to see whether it could form a government that would have the support of the House might make arrangements with other parties, and it could be a formal coalition, as in Britain, where they've actually brought the leader of the Liberal Party into the Liberal Democrats into the government, and he has a position, and other Liberals have position in the government. So you actually divide up the ministry. That's the formal way. Bob Rae, when he was Premier of Ontario, had an informal arrangement, which was, here's a program, and we're going to support you for 2 years as long as we get these things from our side and you get those things from your side. So there's different versions of what it might be. The test at the end of the day, what we had last night was 308 elections. And what we now have is a parliament made up of those 308 individuals. The rules of the game are very simple. Whoever forms the government has to be able to command the support of the House, and that's the same in provincial politics as well. So it would always be Mr. Harper. If he had a majority last night, he would be the one that would have been asked. He still would have been asked. And if he failed, and it was in a short time period since the last election, then we would have had the Governor General simply ask the leader of the next largest party, would be the custom, whether they might be able to form a government. They could take a week, if you look at some of the other systems around the world, they take a couple of months. Belgium, it's been a few months really without a government almost, trying to figure out whether they can form a coalition.
What do you think this majority government means for U.S.-Canada relations? Obama-Harper together, chatting.
The relationship, I mean, the Conservatives have worked pretty hard, certainly during the Bush administration, and there was a closer ideological link on the Bush side. I don't have a sense that there's been particularly troubled relations, because of the switch to Democrats and Obama. And Obama, of course, has his own issues with regard to now, half of his Congress, in the hands of the Republicans anyway. So I don't think there's any big bumps in the road there, unless we maybe back out of buying jets. I don't think that's going to happen.
It doesn't seem like that's happening, no. But again, that's not a done deal either.
That's right.
What does it mean for Christy Clark, do you think? Anything? Does it have any ramifications at a provincial level? I'm sure she was happy to see the results in her particular riding. And
yes, the Liberals held on to Quadra. I think that's probably a good sign for her. Of course, federal Liberals are not BC Liberals. The BC is a coalition.
Exactly.
BC Liberals are a coalition. I mean, that's the case. So for me, the biggest message in BC was that what went on rather dramatically in other parts of the country, although not all parts, so the prairie's not great change, was that how little change occurred in BC. The NDP picked up 3 or 4 seats. The Conservatives lost 1 actually in BC, and the Liberals lost 3. Okay, so the NDP picked up 3 and Elizabeth May picked up 1. So if you're looking at it from a provincial perspective, you'd say, no dramatic shifts here because of HST debates and those things that did play out as part of the federal election. So, maybe she's thinking maybe a fall election rather than waiting till next spring because, the portends aren't as dangerous here.
Right, but there will be many NDP MPs who have never done this job before.
Oh, absolutely. There's going to be
a few rookies.
I mean, literally rookies. I mean, there's rookies and there's rookies. They're rookies that have sat on a city council or a school board or have some kind of, been part of some deliberative democracy exercise. And then one of the candidates in Quebec, I have nothing against jugglers, but I mean, his main profession is juggling. That may work very well in Parliament.
When you think of every day what we look at in this province, you look at Aboriginal poverty and jobs, whether or not we want gun control, green energy, if climate change is real or not, all of those things. Did anybody talk about those during the election?
There was a little bit.
Lower taxes, a little bit.
There was a little bit on the gun registry. So
a little bit.
And that's going to play out. We know how that'll play out now with the Harper majority. You know, the long gun registry is.
But not many comments about Aboriginal
virtually
poverty.
Virtually nothing on the Aboriginal file at all, and which is really quite surprising, given because there was continually news stories about you know, clean water, for goodness sakes, you know, on reserves, and you know, in a country like Canada. I mean, it's really quite appalling record that we have in terms of social conditions for many of our Aboriginal communities, and to not have that play out is, you know, says something. What
about the impact of the polls? The polls pretty well called it. Well, not quite to this degree, but you know, most of the trends seem to come true.
Oh, I think so. Usually, most political scientists would say if you're at 40% in a multi-party system, as Canada is, that you're not likely to get a majority. And Harper has it's not a huge majority, but it's a comfortable majority for 40%. The other feature of that is that the Conservatives at the end of the 2008 election had 38%. So there was virtually no change in their vote, a little bit of growth for a fairly significant difference in the outcome. And I think that's because of the Liberal collapse.
Probably. If you were sitting in the Liberal war room today, giving the Liberals advice, what to do next, how to regroup, rethink, find a slogan, determine what the Central is, what it stands for, what the vision is, what advice would you give them?
I think they have it in their past, and I think it's kind of thinkers' conferences. It's a variety of different things. I think an interim leader that would be competent, you know, somebody who's good in the House and good with the public. And I would think the people that come to my mind as interim leader would be a Goodale or a Ray or somebody of that sort. And as a Ray wouldn't be an interim leader if he was thinking of running.
Well, do voters forget? I mean, Ray has always walked around with the Premier of Ontario on his back. Don't you think eventually voters forget, or they say, you know, look at what he's done now, and he won his seat? Were you surprised Ignatieff didn't win his seat?
I wasn't hugely surprised. As I recall, that was Michael Wilson's seat in the Mulroney years. So Etobicoke is not exactly the you know, the bastion of progressive thought in Toronto.
Right.
So it was. I mean, it seemed to me it was entirely possible, and certainly given what happened to the party, and it might have been the best thing for Ignatieff if you're going to lose badly, to lose your own seat.
Exactly, and he was very eloquent and elegant about it.
Yeah.
Definitely. What about social media? Impact of social media, tweets, blogs, all of that on this particular election?
I think it certainly animated some of the discussion. There's no doubt. I haven't seen the results in terms of any breakdown on age in voting. I mean, the demographic that's not voted in the past are 18 to 35-year-olds, which are the biggest users of social media. There was certainly a vast increase in the volume, and I anticipated that would turn into some increase in turnout, and that turnout would be mostly new voters. So, but I don't know. I don't know whether you had any more information about the breakdown. Elections Canada will give us some of that information.
Yes, I'm sure, because there were some tweets flouting the election ban.
Oh, yes,
I hear tell, so we'll see. I thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you. Professor Patrick Smith from Simon Fraser University.